Yes, excuse me, sorry.
Hey guys, I'm going to say a couple things and then take questions as long as we can. I know we have I think the main thing to take away from today is 2 words for the American people. Case closed. We sat for 3 hours, watched on live television on many of your networks, hours of explanation of why a Trump-appointed prosecutor who spent 15 months investigating the president came to the obvious conclusion that there is no case here. After all this time, millions of pages of records that have been reviewed, 150 witnesses have been interviewed. The conclusion was simple, that there is no case here. The case is closed. It's time to move on. House Republicans tried to make it a big deal. They want to attack the president politically. They're making it very obvious that they're trying to help the former president. And it's a failure. We need to work on the things that actually matter for the American people. We need to work on getting aid to Ukraine. We need to work on securing our border. We need to work on a spending package that avoids a shutdown next week. These are the things we need to work on, work together on. And it's time that we move on. So I'm happy to take your questions.
Ian, does the White House believe that Robert Hur is acting as a partisan player?
I think today laid bare that the special counsel, who, as you mentioned, was a Trump appointee, made some inappropriate comments about the president in his report that do not match up with the transcript of that interview that now every American can see for themselves. I think that the investigation that lasted 15 months came to the obvious conclusion that there was no case to be made here, that the evidence doesn't back up bringing any charges. That's what he found. That's the result of this investigation. Even a Republican prosecutor found that and told House Republicans that today. And so this case is closed.
But do you think he has a political agenda?
What is the position that you were trying to make? Is it that there was no wrongdoing by the president?
Well, explain what you mean by that. That was the conclusion, is that there is no case here.
The conclusion was that their charges were not warranted. And the special counsel outlined a number of reasons why. Shortage of evidence to merit a charging decision, and also how that testimony, how a case might be perceived by a jury. But you're saying case closed, and you're drawing an equivalency to innocence. And the president even said, we're going to make some changes in how we address things here. We're going to try to put in place a system that we can ensure this never happens again. So are you saying that there was no wrongdoing in claiming that the case is closed?
Well, in America, we do have the presumption of innocence. And when a prosecutor spends 15 months investigating a case only to determine that there is no case here and that there will be no charges and that the case is closed, it only affirms the innocence of the president. And you're right, the president has made an announcement that he's going to set up a task force to examine how transitions handle their packing of papers and movement. You saw this today in the transcript of his interview with the special counsel that was released. The president talked openly about how, as presidents and vice presidents do, they rely on their staffs to pack up their papers and move boxes and things like that. So the president's actually taking action. We've actually seen every administration in the last 50 years having accidentally taken classified documents when they leave office, and he's going to do something about it. He's appointing a team to look at how those transitions are handled and make recommendations so we can avoid this happening again in the future.
Why did the president say that it was Robert Hur?
Well, the transcript clearly shows that the president was being asked by the special counsel about the book that he wrote about his son's unfortunate and untimely passing, and the grief and the pain that he felt, and how he moved through that to try to find new purpose for the first time out of office, leaving office in 45 years. He was asked about the work of the cancer moonshot that the president's spoken very openly about for years, being motivated by the illness and the tragic death of his son, Beau, by brain cancer. These are the things that he was being asked about. So anybody who's familiar with this president's powerful story, emotional story of overcoming that loss and finding a new purpose and trying to keep going for the country, to try to save our democracy and move our country forward, anybody who's familiar with that story from the president will understand that the president's going to talk about his son, Beau. And I think the transcript makes plainly clear, and I think the American people understand this. The president remembers exactly when his son died. He carries that pain with him every day. He carries that emotional toll with him every day. And the transcript only makes that clear.
During the press conference, the president...
You just heard Robert Hur testifying for about 5 hours. Did the White House learn anything new from this testimony today? And I also just wanted to know, what do you think the American people should make of his statement that he has not exonerated the president?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think that the main thing I took away from the hearing today was that we had 3 hours of the Republicans showing just how hypocritical they're willing to be in order to politically attack the president. At the same time, that they and the Democrats and the special counsel himself laid bare exactly why there is no case here. The case is closed, the evidence did not support bringing charges, and it's over. It's time to move on.
Sir,
and the question that you asked about him claiming that he didn't exonerate the president, I mentioned this before. We have a presumption of innocence in this country. The job of a prosecutor is simple. It is binary. I heard the special counsel say that today. You either charge or you don't charge. And so if that's the decision, and the decision is made after a 15-month sprawling investigation, looking at every possible theory, turning over every rock to try to find any evidence that they can, and the evidence does not support bringing charges, that presumption of innocence takes it to another level. There is no case here. The president is innocent, and that was the conclusion of this case.
Sir, you
I
slammed.
wanted
Sir,
to follow up on Gabe's point because the president was pretty angry the night of the report, saying how in the hell he raised that regarding the special counsel and his son's death. And the transcript does show that Burr did not bring up those deaths specifically. So does the president regret making that accusation?
Look, the president was very, I think, emotional about the fact that this special counsel, who, has spent 5 hours with the president, used his report to make a patently false claim that the president somehow doesn't remember when his son died. The transcript is now available for every American to see, for all media to see, and you can see that the president remembers exactly the day his son died. He thought it was outrageous and inappropriate for that report to include such an inappropriate and extraneous comment like that, especially when it's clear that he says the day his son died. And so I think that you saw the anger and emotional reaction of a father who still experiences the pain of that loss every single day. And I think that it's not just us who have said it, it's not just others who have said it, it's former leadership of the Justice Department, former Attorney General, the former Deputy Attorney General, who have said that exact comment being in that report was inappropriate. And so that's what the president was reacting to.
And with the White House support releasing, audio or video of the Burr interview with the president?
Yeah, thanks for that question. There's really no reason that anyone would need the audio tape. We have a transcript that's been made public. House Republicans asked for that. It's been released to them. The point of an audio recording is to inform a transcript. That's the official record of the proceeding, and that's how this works. Jeff?
Thank you very much. Ian, can you clarify what happens next in this process? You say that the case is closed, but the Republicans will probably continue.
Well, Republicans have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years fishing around in a bumbling impeachment inquiry, trying to find something to attack the president with. I don't expect that they're going to stop anytime soon. If they were wise, they would realize that the country doesn't want them focused on these sorts of political attacks. The country wants to work together. They want the leadership in Washington to work together to solve real problems that actually matter to them. Things like the border security supplemental, things like the Ukraine supplemental, things like avoiding a government shutdown next week. That's what people want House Republicans to work with the president on. If they try to continue this silly impeachment exercise after they just sat through 3 hours of a prosecutor explaining exactly why he didn't bring charges in a case that is now completely closed, I think it would be a mistake, and I think that they would pay the consequences of that.
Follow up, does the president feel that Merrick Garland should have done anything differently during this process?
The president spoke to this when he spoke to you all. He understands the decision that was made to appoint a special counsel in this case. He certainly understands how challenging this environment can be. There's a lot of pressure in this environment, political pressure, especially by, like we saw today, House Republicans who were making sort of false claims of a two-tiered system of justice, and that pressure can be hard. And I think the president spoke very clearly about the appointment of the special counsel, and I don't have anything else to say.
Ian, last month you blasted.
Going back to the exoneration question, is it fair to say that the White House disagrees with Robert Burr and the report, in fact, did exonerate President Biden?
Well, I think the report cleared President Biden. I mean, President Biden's been cleared. That's the whole decision that was made by the prosecutor. The prosecutor had to decide, do I charge him or do I not charge him after this long investigation? And the decision was made not to charge, and the case is closed, and the president's been fully cleared.
Sir, you blasted the media last month for its coverage of the
Did the president watch any of the hearing today? Did he have any personal reaction?
Yeah, the president was updated on how the hearing went. He's following the news today. He saw a little bit of what went down. And I think the president feels strongly that this case is over and it's time to move on for the business of the American people.
So last month you blasted the media.
I just want to clarify your answer to me and a couple others. So you're saying that the president, you're admitting to some wrongdoing, he's innocent
No,
of the
there's
charges.
no admission.
Well, wrongdoing in the sense that you would made changes here to ensure this doesn't happen again. But you just said he is innocent in an answer to one of us, and then we're talking about the exoneration and made the claim that the case is closed. So what is the bottom line on how?
Yeah, the bottom line is the case is closed. A prosecutor spent 15 months investigating whether the president committed anything that rises to the level of a chargeable offense. He decided clearly and easily that that was not the case, that the evidence does not support that, and he was not going to bring a case. The case is now closed. As I mentioned earlier, in America we have a presumption of innocence. The whole point of this exercise is to decide whether that should be put into question. When the decision is made that the case is over and the president has been fully cleared, it's over. You bring up sort of the systemic issue of the sort of accidental removal of classified documents from government property. This has been something that's plagued the country going back 50 years. Every administration, Democrat, Republican, going all the way back to 50 years, have accidentally had senior officials, staff, otherwise take classified documents. The president takes that very seriously. Obviously, you saw that with his cooperation with this investigation. As soon as something was found, he turned it all back in, and he's going to do something about it. He's going to make sure that we have recommendations from a task force of experts who've handled transitions, who've dealt with classified information, who can make a recommendation for how to make sure that these sort of accidents don't keep happening. We saw it with Vice President Pence right before we saw this investigation of the president begin. And so, we want to make sure that we're doing something about it. Mistakes can happen, and so it's important that everybody work toward the common goal of protecting our national security information. And so that's exactly what the president is going to do.
So
Sir,
you
last
said
night-
Biden
Thank you,
should be
Ian.
innocent and
Thank you.
exonerated. That should be our headline.
Thank you, Ian. Is it the position of the White House counsel's office that the special counsel did not uncover any evidence that the president willfully retained and disclosed classified information after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen?
Thanks for that question. Actually, I think this has been a big misconception with the report and the way it was presented. Sentence 2 saying that they found evidence of willful retention, and then page 215 saying, actually, we didn't find a lot of strong evidence about that. Throughout the course of that report, which now, the American people have had a month to pore over and go through the details of, it shows that the evidence does not support that. And in fact, the clearest piece of evidence that does not support that is the conclusion by the special counsel. The very criminal allegation that you would be looking at is whether someone willfully retained. And actually the special counsel talked a lot about this today at the hearing, that he did not uncover the evidence to show and to prove that the president willfully retained anything. And in fact, there's a preponderance of evidence that shows that it could have easily been taken by mistake. And so the decision was clear. It was what it was always set out to be, that this case is closed.
Sir, last month you blasted media coverage of the Her report. Last month you blasted coverage,
Sure.
the media over the coverage of the Her report. You wrote a letter and everything.
Okay.
Do you regret doing that?
I think that there's been a lot of misconceptions about how the report framed the result of this. I think there was a lot of distraction from some of the inappropriate commentary that the special counsel made. And I think that right now what's very clear to the American people is that this president did not commit anything that rises to the level of a criminal offense. And the special counsel, who was a Trump appointee, declined to bring a case.
How was today's
The case is
coverage?
closed.
How was today's media
So
coverage
I
of the hearing?
appreciate
How was
everybody.
today's
Thanks so
coverage
much.
of the hearing?
Thank you, Ian.